Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha, Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. I just came across an article here from zerohedge.com, and it's entitled, "We are facing the entire NATO in Ukraine," Kremlin says, as UK mauls battle tanks. All right, I'm going to read through this article, but as we're reading, you'll notice that pretty much what's happening is what started off as, the Western nations, really NATO, saying that, they support Ukraine and that's all it is now turning into a proxy war, which is eventually going to lead to a direct conflict at some point. Okay, as more and more of these NATO countries keep supplying Ukraine with more and more artilleries and weapons and so on and so forth. And as we read the article, you'll see. All right, but it says here, Russian Security Council Secretary Nikolai Patrushev has issued ultra-provocative words, claiming that it's not fundamentally Ukraine that Russia is at war with, but that the Russian military is facing all of NATO inside Ukraine. All right, so pretty much it's not even Ukraine's war, it's NATO's war using Ukraine. It says the events in Ukraine aren't a clash between Moscow and Kiev. It's a military confrontation of NATO, first of all, the US and Britain with Russia. Fearing a direct engagement, NATO instructors push Ukraine men. They push Ukrainian men to certain death, he said in a fresh interview with state-owned newspaper Air 8th.ru. It goes on to read, Patrushev continued by describing Russia's military as geared towards seeking to free its regions from occupation and must put an end to the West's bloody experiment to destroy the fraternal people of Ukraine. We are not at war with Ukraine because we can't have hatred for ordinary Ukrainians by default, he stressed. He then presented Russian and Ukrainian heritage and closely bound up together according to state media. Get this, the Ukrainian language is one of the official languages in Crimea. Ukrainian cultural centers, Ukrainian folk song, and dance groups continue to exist in many cities. A considerable number of people in the south of the Far East regard Ukrainian culture as their own. Even a large proportion of migrants from the times of Stolypin, he said, referring to Pyotr Stolypin, if I'm saying his name right, a prime minister of the Russian Empire in the early 1900s, who oversaw a resettlement policy. So, as you keep on reading, you'll notice that he's saying, look, in essence, it's not really Ukraine that we're at war with, all right? It's the ones that are pushing them, and supplying them with these materials to try and go on, keep this war going. Because when you really look at it, it is in the best interest of the West, really the elites, to have this war keep on going because it gives them an excuse. They can, look at all the different things that have happened that they've been able to blame on the Russia-Ukraine war. That things that have affected and are still affecting the global economy and fertilizer and food prices and what they call that, the supply chain disruption, all right, that they were able to blame on this Russian-Ukrainian war. So if it was to just up and end, that would probably be not too good for them, because then they need to think of something else. So it says, the sooner the people of Ukraine realize that the West is using them to wage a war on Russia, the more lives will be saved. Patrushev added, Many have realized that long ago, but they are afraid to say that publicly out of fear of reprisals. It's not a part of the West's plans to save someone's life to the detriment of its enrichment and other ambitions, which is true. History will even tell you that. Even so, the Americans, the British, and other Europeans often create an illusion that they protect civilization from barbarians. He then referenced the ongoing Western-backed attempts of Kiev to make Russian language and culture illegal. Now, as you keep on going down, here we go. It says here, meanwhile, there's a growing move among leading NATO countries to begin transferring Western tanks and troop carriers to the Ukrainian battlefield. Starting last week, France began leading the way, resulting in a fierce response from the Kremlin. And then before you know it, they have NATO troops in there that are really fighting, claiming to be, on the outside, making it look like it's the Ukrainians fighting. And then here it is, it's really NATO troops in there. Okay? It says the French President Emmanuel Macron, by agreeing to send AMX 10 RC wheeled tanks to Ukraine, has crossed a red line and broke a military taboo, becoming the first Western leader to make the step, the Daily Telegraph reported. And that's a dangerous step, all right, because that step is escalating. It's escalating things dangerously. Okay. It says, but following this warning that a red line had been crossed, the Biden administration approved sending Bradley fighting vehicles, and now Britain is next to be mulling tanks for Ukrainian forces, as Sky News reports Monday. So things are definitely getting escalated. Okay? It says the UK is considering supplying Ukraine with British tanks for the first time to fight Russia's invading forces, Sky News understands. Discussions, and Russia is going to react to this. How are they going to do it? Well, we're going to watch and see. It says discussions have been taking place for a few weeks about delivering a number of the British Army's Challenger 2 main battle tank to the Ukrainian armed forces, a Western source with knowledge of the conversation said. And guess what? This leads to that escalation, which ultimately the Most High is in control of, and he is timing it, to where it escalates a certain amount when it needs to, so that the prophecies still line up, and they're fulfilled right on cue. But eventually it's going to get to the point where there's going to be no room, which we're seeing, for them to even sit down and discuss or talk or try to save the peace or anything like that. Okay. So it says here, verse 17, behold, I will stir Slaki, this is Isaiah 13 and 17. It says, behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which when you read Isaiah the 13th chapter, it's a prophecy, all right, it's speaking prophetically about Babylon, which in this chapter is referring on to America. And the Medes in this verse is referring on to the Russians. Okay. So behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. So when you deal with silver and gold, these are usually in terms of when you come to agreements, when you have like a treaty or trade or, but this is in essence cooperation. So they're now getting to the point where the Lord is stirring up the Russians by having the Western nations, not just America, NATO, and these other countries do certain actions that is going to trigger Russia. By threatening Russia, you trigger them to get into that defense mode. Okay? And then it's to the point where it gets, the things get so heated that there is no calming it back down. But the Most High knows that things can escalate very, very quickly, and that's why he always has this move at a slow pace, because he ain't gonna have no trouble sparking this thing up, when the time is ripe. But we still got a little more to go. Verse 18, it says, their bows shall dash the young men to pieces, which is referring on to the silos. And the reason it says that is because out of the silos comes the missile itself, with just like out of the bow comes the arrow. And so the bow and the arrow, when you see sometimes in the scriptures, it is used to represent the nuclear missiles and the silos. Because ultimately Russia's going to shoot missiles here as well. It says, shall dash their young men to pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. So the young men, the strong men, which are the armies, the military, the fruit of the womb, which are children. It says their eyes shall not spare children. Yeah. So when they shoot the missiles, they're not gonna say we're not gonna shoot missiles on the land of America because they got kids over there, or because they got women or children or whatnot. Because the Lord is gonna have a spirit of war on them. And it's not just, it's not just them shooting missiles here. The U.S. is also going to shoot missiles. But according to prophecy, this Babylon is going to be taken out completely. And these are the preliminary steps towards that we're seeing. Verse 19, and Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency, shall be as when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. So what was it like when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah? He completely destroyed it with by causing it to quote unquote rain down fire and brimstone and destroyed it. And that's what's going to happen to this land by way of the nuclear missiles and by way of the heat and the lasers from the chariots. All right, and this place is going to be completely done. So now going back to the article, there's a little bit more here. Let me see here. A Ukrainian official was cited in the report as saying that the UK sending tanks would in turn encourage others to give tanks. So now it's tanks, but then what? What comes after that? President Zelensky, during his December in-person address to the U.S. Congress, mentioned that his country is in dire need of tanks, and he specifically, multiple times, asked Washington for M1 Abrams tanks. The U.S. still remained reluctant, however, largely on fears that too much heavy weaponry, too fast, would lead to direct NATO-Russia confrontation, ostensibly at least. So if it's too much too fast, so maybe they're going to just slow it down and send it in increments. Based on the words of Russian Security Council Secretary Patrushev, it seems Russia increasingly sees military confrontation with NATO as already happening. After all, the massive loss of Russian troops in the Makivka barracks attack was reportedly accomplished with U.S.-supplied HIMARS or HIMARS missile systems. Okay, so you're getting a glimpse into the minds of these different nations, primarily Russia, because Russia is going to play a very big and important role in World War III. All right, but as well as the U.S., as well as NATO, as well as Israel and Iran. Okay, so the Lord he's keeping it all alive as he pushes, more on the side of the MOTB. You also have, the side of World War III and those tensions being kept alive. All right, so it doesn't cool off, but it doesn't just pop off right away. Everything has to happen in order. So with that, I'm going to end it here. Lord willing, you are edified and informed. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakha Kodash. Until next time, Shalom.